UFC just changed course. Dana White says Topuria versus Makhachev can actually happen, but only if one thing plays out. During a recent episode of the Full Send podcast, UFC President Dana White broke his silence on the possibility of a dream matchup between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev. While many fans had written off the fight due to Makhachev's move up to the welterweight division, White made it clear that the fight is still very much on the table, but only under one condition. That condition? Islam Makhachev must win the UFC welterweight title by defeating current champion Jack Della Maddalena later in 2025. According to White, this title win would instantly set up a super fight scenario between the reigning lightweight champion Ilia Topuria and potential two-division champion Makhachev. White emphasized that this isn't just hypothetical talk. It's a real option that the UFC will explore if Makhachev succeeds. He acknowledged that while fans and analysts often fantasize about super matchups, the UFC only moves forward when the path becomes clear and logical based on results. In this case, Makhachev's potential welterweight championship would create a high-stakes showdown between two dominant, undefeated fighters who have both conquered multiple divisions. This statement from White shifts the narrative. Instead of Topuria versus Makhachev being a what-if, it becomes a real, planned future blockbuster, but only if Islam handles business at 170 pounds. If you're enjoying the update and want to stay ahead of UFC news, hit that subscribe button and join MMA Thread for 3 daily fight drops. Ilia Topuria has gone from rising contender to global UFC superstar in record time. At just 28 years old, he's already accomplished what very few fighters have, becoming a two-division UFC champion while remaining undefeated. His latest win, a devastating knockout of Charles Oliveira at UFC 317, sent shockwaves to the MMA world and instantly elevated his status in the pound-for-pound rankings. But it's not just a victory over Oliveira that makes Topuria special. He's defeated former champions like Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, two of the most respected names in UFC history. And he hasn't just edged out wins, he's dominated, often doing exactly what predicted in the exact round and fashion he promised. That level of precision, self-belief, and execution is rare and has drawn widespread admiration, even from Dana White himself. White praised Topuria as unbelievable and called the performances incredible, especially considering the caliber of opponents he's dismantled. With a perfect 17-0 record, elite striking, and growing star power, Topuria is now considered one of the biggest attractions in the UFC, not just for his fighting ability, but for the aura of invincibility he carries. All of this makes a matchup with Islam Makhachev even more massive than it would have been a year ago. It's not just a clash of champions. It's a battle between two dominant forces, both chasing greatness, legacy, and two-division glory. Dana White hinted that if things go according to plan, the long-anticipated Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria Superfight could realistically take place in the first quarter of 2026. But as any longtime UFC fan knows, even the most promising matchups can fall apart at the last moment. White was candid in saying that while the pieces may line up perfectly, Makhachev moving up, winning the welterweight title, and setting the stage for a historic showdown, nothing is guaranteed in MMA. He referenced a recent disappointment that still stings: the collapse of John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, a fight many believe was already locked in until Jones unexpectedly stepped away from competition. This unpredictability is a harsh reality in combat sports. Injuries, surprise retirements, contract issues, or even sudden shifts in the rankings can derail even the biggest plans. That's why White emphasizes that the UFC prefers to deal with real outcomes, not hypotheticals. Only when Makhachev defeats Jack Della Maddalena can the UFC officially start building toward the Topuria Superfight. Until then, it remains an exciting possibility, but not a promise. Fans will have to stay patient, keep an eye on Islam's performance at welterweight, and hope that the stars finally align for what could be one of the most compelling fights in UFC history. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to MMA Thread and get every UFC update before it blows up online.